let's run through the $1 million per year business plan. Hey, I'm Tim Denny, in case you haven't come across me before. I've been talking about 100K months for a while now. Today we're going to put it all together and I'm going to talk about $1 million or more per year. So the path to doing that has specific stages, and let me run you through them. So the first stage is what I call testing, and that's where you do sort of 5K in a month. And look, honestly, that can easily be a fluke. And so I would call this a side hustle or a hobby. Nothing wrong with that, but it's unproven at this point. And it's a signal that you could have something good, not a guarantee. In stage 2, we're all about validating in this stage. And so 10K per month is what happens in this stage, and that's good, but it's nowhere near stability. I mean, think about what 100K per year gets you now. It's not much. It's definitely not what it used to be, particularly with the cost of living. So that's why we always want to aim higher than a measly 10K a month. And that brings us to stage 3, which is all about systemizing. So at this phase, you're not guessing anymore. You have a set of predictable actions to get you the income that you expect. And then that takes us to stage 4. So in stage 4, it's all about scaling. So at 50K per month, you're building on your systems and you're documenting all the systems that you build. This also means you might be hiring a team and probably creating more offers. And then that takes us to the final stage, which is stage 5, and that's all about leveraging. So at the $1 million per year mark, you are leveraging yourself out of the business. And ironically, the way to get from 50K per month to 100K per month, or even more than $1 million a year, is to get yourself out of the way. And I'm really guilty because when I hit this stage, I was stuck in the middle and I was in the way. So if you get out, you're able to go beyond that. The reason you want to earn this much money is because at this point, you can put in the systems to make more, work less, and those systems will be running so that you can spend more time with your family, which I think is the ultimate goal for a lot of people. So this is me here on screen. You've got on the left-hand side here, I'm in the backyard with my 3-year-old daughter. On the right-hand side here, this is my newborn baby. And this is why I do what I do. I'm all about running a family-first business, or what I call a daddy-first business. And so if you build a business like this, this is what you can do. And maybe your goal's different. I'm personally not into Lamborghinis and big mansions. I think it's all about this. But knowing what that is at the start helps you build the business. And the model we're going to run through is designed for that. So a note on my favorite businesses before we get too deep into it. There are many gurus who talk about different business models, but I talk about the most likely path to $1 million or more. I don't like lottery ticket businesses. I don't like celebrity-based businesses where you get really famous and everyone follows you around. If you want to read about the nightmare of fame, check out the essay by Tim Ferriss, All About Fame. It's not what you want. And I like boring, lucrative businesses. That's what I'm all about. Because boring, lucrative businesses equal right model plus right systems plus consistence. Before we get into the systems themselves, I want to go meta. If you have the wrong mindset, you will sabotage yourself. This isn't some woo-woo thing. It's not spirituality. It's fundamental to business itself. 3 common traits of the $1 million earner are these. So number 1 is willing to make changes fast. A client of mine, Tiffany, was making 4 to 5K per month, and frankly, she was sick of it. So we talked in August, and then by September, she'd launched an all-new product with an all-new model. And she went from 9K to 30,000 USD plus in a month without actually launching the product. In less than 30 days, she'd had a whole new business capable of that $1 million run that we're talking about. That's an example of speed. That's someone that is going to win in how they're acting and thinking in that moment. Number 2, you got to be willing to do boring actions over and over. I have a friend who made $920,000 on Substack in 6 months. What did he do? We're going to cover some of that shortly because it's a similar process for everyone. The point here is not what he did. That's not as sexy as you might think. The point is that he did it, and he did it day in and day out. So a bit of a gut check at this point. Do you have a checklist for 4 to 6 items that you do without exception every day? Number 3, you got to be willing to make money. I put this last because it's borderline cheesy, but there is a lot of dogma in the world that will make you feel bad about earning a lot of money. And when you start making lots of money, people will look at you differently, and I've experienced this firsthand with what I've done. You may lose some friends, your in-laws may alienate you. If you can't be 100% comfortable with owning a bunch of cash, you'll never keep it. You'll find ways to spend it on stupid stuff or do what I call, which is guilt giving it away. I call my private coaching group Fearless Moneymakers because we are not shy about making money. It's the goal because so many good things can come from it if you master it. Let's have a look at Courtney Johnson here, another great example of doing this exact thing. She says, "This is the first time I'm suddenly having more business referred to me than I can handle. I think it's just because of the effort I'm putting in." This is what happens when you have that mindset. So let's start with what is least likely to make you $1 million or more a year. And I want to talk about all the stuff to avoid because that sets us up nicely for the how-to. And you may have heard some of it, but here are the danger traps to avoid. So not likely to reach $1 million if you focus on platform revenue. What is it? Medium royalties, X ad revenue share, YouTube ad revenue share. I'll even add TikTok in there as well. Now, why won't you get $1 million or more with this? Because you're relying on the platform. They can cut you off at any time. The pay rate can go down. You can get banned. And worst of all, the algorithm can change. And that's the algorithm that sends out your content. Most people that I come across get fooled into starting here. And I think it's a very bad idea. And let me explain why. Let me share my personal horror story. I was making 70,000 USD a month at my peak on medium.com. Then I got an email from a staff member. They told me to remove a word from my headline or they'd stop boosting the story. And all that means is like they'd stop allowing people to read it. So I did what they told me to do. Then the main publication that I was writing for on Medium that boosted all of my content, they ended up closing down. They had an argument with the platform, so did a bunch of other publications, and they left. Next, I had some allies working at medium.com who helped me. Very nice people. And they got fired. They got made redundant. And then the founder of Medium quit. And he loved my writing. And he was just gone. And I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So now, after all those events, I make about $500 a month from Medium because they decided to pay writers peanuts so they can finally become a profitable business. And that's up to Medium. That's completely fine. But that's what can happen when you rely on a platform. Okay, also not likely to reach $1 million or more. Passive income via digital products. People are going to hate me for this one, but passive income via digital products will almost never get you to $1 million or more on its own. Now, when we say digital products, we're talking about books, courses, checklists, Notion templates, AI prompts, even pre-written code. All of this falls under the category of what I call chump change or pocket money. Why you won't make $1 million from this? Well, the most successful online businesses right now make their money from high ticket products, not low ticket. Talk to anyone who's doing well and they'll tell you this, okay? Perception of value varies widely with digital products. And also, you normally need a sizable email list to generate six figures from this, and a lot of people don't talk about that either. And it's just that you need to grow all the time in order to not hit a ceiling with this income stream. It's constant treadmill of, I need more followers, I need more email subscribers, and it never ends. And then a large following means that you get unwanted attention and potential fame, and I think that's a nightmare and you should avoid it. And you may need to understand product launches, which are quite complicated. You can't just slap it up on a website, your digital product, and it magically sells. You've actually got to force urgency and scarcity and do these launches. And that's not easy for the average person to do. Okay, also not likely to make $1 million or more, a paid newsletter. Let's check this one out. A paid newsletter is sold via kit.com, Substack, or Beehive. The product that the customer actually gets is a weekly piece of writing in the form of a newsletter. Now, it can also include group chats, Q&A, Zoom calls, and podcasts. They're not the main feature, but it can have those on there. So why won't you make $1 million from this? The price you can charge is anchored very low. You need to have the skill of consistent audience building. The churn will likely be extremely high, so you'll always need new paid subscribers coming in. And you're basically a full-time writer with this business model. And again, you need to understand product launches because yes, you have to launch your newsletter consistently to get new subscribers in. You can't just put it up, turn it on, and people magically pay you. That's not how the internet works. So I'm not saying you absolutely can't make $1 million with any of these models. I'm just saying it's less likely, okay? So the odds of success are less likely. They are more like a lottery ticket, okay? Now, let's talk about what you need for $1 million or more. I actually won't recommend a specific type of offer here because many offers work, but here's some examples. masterminds, paid communities, live cohorts, coaching, paid workshops, done for you services, etc. Your business might use any of these, or you could even do a mix of them as well, which is what I do. So instead of focusing on what's the offer, let's focus on what's the system. And so for each of these, I want you to mentally give yourself a score between 1 and 5. So think of 1 as I never do this or it's random, and think of 5 as I have a clear process that I repeat without fail. So here's what it looks like visually on screen. Let's go through each of these systems that are going to go in each of the boxes. So the very first one is a lead generation system. The goal of this system is to consistently attract the attention of strangers and get them into your world. Pretty straightforward. If you aren't constantly attracting new leads, your business is dying. And if you don't have any leads, you don't have a business. It's that simple, and you've got to have new blood, new oxygen, new attention, whatever you want to call it, to make this business work. So my business has been doing millions of dollars every year, I don't say that to brag, for quite some time now. And I'm still doing lead generation relentlessly every day because it never stops. That's what you sign up for. So here are the questions to ask yourself with lead generation. Number 1, do you know where your ideal customers hang out? So if you're doing B2B, are they on LinkedIn? You got to know where they are. If you're in a specific country, what's the social media platform that dominates that country? You got to know that. Otherwise, you'll be hanging out in the wrong spot where your customers aren't already there, right? Number 2, are you showing up in those places every day? This is one where I get a lot of silence. If your clients are on LinkedIn, are you there every single day posting and commenting and being part of the conversation? If you do it weekly or randomly or monthly, nothing happens. And number 3, do you have a way for people to go from a follower to a subscriber? What does that mean? Do you have a newsletter or a lead magnet to take people off the social media platforms and over to your email list, which is where the selling happens? And I'll give you an example here. This is our client, Julie. This is her Substack. She's got 176,000 subscribers. So when we first started working with her, she had 0. In about a week, she got something like 95,000 subscribers. Now, that's not common, all right? I don't want everyone to model that, but that's what she was able to achieve. So when you have that many subscribers, now you have leads. And then when she went and launched her offer, she launched to those subscribers. And funny enough, with Julie, she ended up not having enough spots. And she's like, Tim, what do? I just can't help all these people. That's a good problem to have. That's what you want to get into. All right, next is the offer creation system. And the goal of this system is to create and validate that people will buy something from you that you actually create. So that's number 2 here. If you haven't created an offer yet, this is going to be very valuable. If you have created an offer, this is going to be worth the review, I think. Many people get this part wrong though. So in order to get it right, we need to think like a bartender, right? So dude walks into a bar. What does the bartender say? Does he say, here, drink this beer? Try this homemade concoction I'm in love with? I've got some water for you? No, the bartender doesn't say any of that. He says, what would you like, Mr. Denning? That's what he says. So you want to sell your audience what they want, not what you want. That means you need to know this about your audience, these questions. Which topics of yours do they most enjoy reading? Who else do they enjoy reading / watching these days? What is their big goal this year? And which of these describes their current stage of life? Are they a student, full-time employee, part-time employee, retiree, business owner? You want to treat every audience member like your personal market researcher. Ask them questions, and you do this via comments when they engage with your work. You can do DMs with them, which is direct messages. And you can do it via email blasts when they subscribe or when they're already on the email list. But if you don't do that, you end up making the mistake of thinking you already know what people want, and you'll probably fail when you do that. Because what they want and what you think they want are often very different. So the bottom line here is the more you ask, the more you learn. Now we have copy and paste scripts that we use inside of Fearless Moneymakers, but the more important thing is that you ask questions often. Okay, that's the takeaway. The more you learn, the more you earn. So the questions for you at the end of this section are you asking your audience what they want to learn from you? Are you asking them what problems they're trying to solve? And are you turning what you learn into offers that you then end up selling? So let's have a look at Brian here. He had something special. He started landing clients without even launching his offer. So maybe I'll blow this up here so you can see this. But he says, on the other hand, I have on the other side of my business, tech advisory, landed 2 new clients. should the company take off? And he basically goes into, okay, and so I just don't have capacity. And that's before he's even launched it. So if you do this stuff right, that's also what can happen. Again, not the norm, but it's worth noting. All right, next system here is the offer launch system. The goal of this system is to sell as much of your offer as you can in as little time as possible. Okay, number 3 here with the rocket ship. So whether you have already created an offer that you want to get more eyes on, or you want to launch a product you have not yet built, you won't sell that offer if you just hope people stumble across it. And that sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people have that mindset. They're like, well, I just slap it up on a website. People are going to find it. I tell a bunch of people and just everybody rushes in. No, that's not how the internet works or any business. In fact, if you have that mindset, you'll be in for a rude awakening. So one common thing I see with my Fearless Moneymakers members is when they start with most digital businesses, they come across these things. They have their offer buried in a navigation bar on their website, or in a link tree, which I hate, or they say still in development. Okay? Now that's not to throw any hate on them. That's just what I see with my own members and people across the internet. And it's frustrating. But you can't run a digital business without consistently launching offers. Self-explanatory. What does that mean? Let's have a look at Jane, right? She's a hypnotherapist and a client of mine, and she launches so many offers that we sometimes have trouble keeping up with how many. But the rewards are in her bank account. She's banked $30,000 in the last 30 days, and she'll be upgrading a percentage of those clients that she's signed during her next launch, which is really cool. So she's going to do more and more of what works. Makes sense, right? And less of what doesn't. And a launch can take place either through a bunch of DMs that you send, or it can take place through an email list. You got to choose what's right for you at the time, but they're the main options. So the question for you at the end of this section is, do you have your next launch scheduled? Do you have your next 3 launches scheduled? And at the very master level, do you have your next 3 months of offers scheduled? If you're just starting out, you may not want to plan 3 months in advance because you're still learning what works, which is fine. But you do want to have 2 or 3 launches lined up. If you've been in business for a while, like you're in the what I would call the 20 to 40K area, you've got to get those launches on the calendar, period. When we installed One Simple Launch with Brad, he doubled his workshop sales. He says here, expected 30 sales and I got 78. Okay, that's the power of this stuff. It really, really works. Let's get to the next system. It's the conversion system. The goal of this system is to give your audience a chance to put a little money on the line to go from casual follower to happy customer. So that's this one here. Think of this as the backside of a launch, okay? So a launch is the explosion that gets the rocket up into the air, and the conversion system is what keeps it from falling back to the ground, okay? So the question is, what type of selling do you feel most comfortable with? Now we see 3 main choices with what we do. Landing pages, Google Doc offers, or sales calls are probably the most common 3. So like anything, they have pros and cons. The Google Docs are pretty easy to set up, but they may turn off some buyers who want stuff that's professional, and you can't really objection handle with a Google Doc. It's just like, here it is, do you want to buy? And then with landing pages, they handle mass checkouts, and that's fine, but you can have some technical hurdles with that sort of stuff. And then the last one, sales calls, which are great for high ticket sales, but you're only able to take a limited number of calls, and so that becomes a bit of a barrier to entry as well. So there's no right choice here. It's just important to know what they are. You have to ask yourself, what is my true goal here? Is it lifestyle? Is it the raw money itself? And then what are my talents? Is it on the tech side or is it on the conversation side? And then what can I do at scale? Okay, because remember that you're launching all at the same time. And you're doing it regularly too, by the way. So a bonus question to ask yourself, what would I be willing to hire someone for? Some of our Fearless Moneymaker clients, they just simply hire a sales team to do closing for them, and that's how they get their $1 million per year. So that's an option, and plenty of people do that. So John didn't want to take a huge amount of calls, and so he had to nail the conversion himself. And he did. Here's an example in a WhatsApp message. He's like, cool, I'll work on this tomorrow. Next morning, 3K paid in full, right? That's the power of this stuff. Next, we've got the onboarding system. The goal of this system is to make your new customer immediately confident in you and your process. Okay, so that's this one here. Every time you get a customer or client, they are entering an entirely new world. Do not forget that. Immediately after a customer buys, they'll need your help to get started, or else they're probably going to get frustrated, scared, angry, confused, or all of the above. And I'm sure if you've been a customer before, you can probably relate to that. And the chances of a refund when all these things happen, it skyrockets, which we want to avoid. So here are the questions for you to ask. What happens immediately after someone buys? What happens the day after they buy? And what happens the week after someone buys? Now, eventually you'll be able to build out a customer journey for the months or even years that you have a client. But if you get the first week nailed, you've locked a customer in for some time. And that's like kind of the basic goal at the start. All right, next we have a customer journey system. So that's this one here, okay, with the green on it. So pay attention to this because people skip over it. If you've tuned out, this is a great time to tune back in, okay? The following question will almost immediately improve all your results across the board, and I've highlighted it. You're not giving information, you're creating a transformation. I'm going to say that again. You're not giving information, you're creating a transformation. And this is more important in a world of AI, okay? Do not forget this. And in brackets here, you just happen to be solving that problem with some information. So it's not that you don't have any information, it's just not the thing that you are leading with, okay? The transformation you're helping your customers through is what we call the customer journey. I didn't make this up, it comes from my corporate days in banking, but that's the official term. How do you find your customer journey? That's what you might be thinking. Well, first you ask, before you help the person transform, what does their life look like? Then you ask, after you help a person transform, what does their life look like? Then ask, what 5 specific steps do they have to accomplish to go from before to after? And those are the steps to get to your customer journey. An optimal health customer journey might look a little bit like this, and I'll give you a bit of an example. So the before is they're burned out and they're tired. The customer journey is hit your ideal stress levels, optimize your sleep each night, rearrange your nutrition protocol, upgrade your supplement game, and that gets you to the after, which is where you're full of energy and eager to get up each day. Okay, so that's like a health transformation there as an example. Pro tip, the customer journey is a balance. If you have it too big, you might intimidate potential customers before they even start. And then on the other side, if it's too small, your potential customers might think, this is too easy. And that doesn't work either. So you got to try and find a happy medium. Let's look at Barbara. She nailed her customer journey. She's booked out and is very selective on who she lets into her top tier. I'll zoom in on this so you can see it. If you want to pause, you can have a read. Great example though from Barbara of what happens when you implement this. So next, we've got the customer service system. The goal of this system is to build more and more leverage within your business with every passing day. If you've ever paid attention to Naval Ravikant or any of these people on Twitter, it's all about building leverage. That is the key to wealth. And that applies to what we're doing here as well with a digital business. So let's run through this. When you run a digital business, most people assume you are scamming them. The best way to win immediate customer loyalty is just great customer service. This sounds dull and boring. Everyone wants to skip over it, but it's the difference between a customer that stays for 3 days and a customer that stays for 3 years. And I've had people that I've worked with that are with me now for more than 5 years. So that's what happens when you nail this. And I don't care what business you're in or how hard you're working, you'll never reach $1 million or more if you aren't running customer service. The fundamental principle of customer service is to solve every problem only one time. The rest of the time, you are just repeating a solution from something that you've already solved. If you're repeating a solution, you're wasting your time, okay? Document those solutions instead so that you solve a problem once and then you can just use it over and over. When you don't document solutions, you build up what we call operational debt. And this is why success often kills people. They scale up, they hire people, the hired person has no clue what they're going to do. So now you're working double time, and then your only choices are to clean up the operational debt. Or hope you can coach someone to competence, or get impatient, fire them, and start a vicious cycle all over again, which costs you time and money, and you don't want to do that. Customer service feels like a waste of time because it does not strictly add value, and some people would argue it doesn't make money either, but I disagree with that. Number one, it's a waste of your time because you aren't adding value to your business. Number two, it's a waste of your customers' time because they're stuck waiting, and we don't want that either. So where is your business going wrong? If you've ranked yourself 1 to 5 on every item so far, you can immediately see what's the problem in your business after reviewing the systems. 3 problems we see all the time running Fearless Moneymakers are below, and I'm going to run you through them. And any one of these can create imbalances that make it impossible to do more than $1 million a year. So let's break it down. Problem number 1 is what I call the broke influencer. So if we look back at our graphic here on screen, we can see that when it comes to the lead generation system, they're scoring themselves 5 out of 5. So they're pretty good at getting leads. But on the offer creation system, they're 1 out of 5. Like, they don't know how to create offers. Then they're also 1 in terms of launching the offer. They have no idea. And then converting leads to sales, they're about a 3 there. So they're okay, but they're still not making much money. And then the funny part is the last parts here, right? Which is like customer service, customer journey, onboarding people. That's non-existent in this world, okay? So a broke influencer has plenty of followers, but they have terrible to no business set up at all, which explains the ones on the bottom here. And this person often winds up in platform money hell because they can't figure the rest of it out, okay? So we don't want to be there. Problem 2 is what I call the do-gooder. So if we look back at our graphic here, we can see in the lead magnet system, they're scoring themselves a 1 out of 5. So they suck at generating leads. They're not very good at creating offers. They don't launch anything, right? That's non-existent. But once they do get a customer, to their credit, they are very good at taking people from lead to customer. Okay, so they're a 5 out of 5 on that. But then down the bottom here, onboarding customers, they're pretty average. Customer journey, basic. And then they're excellent at customer service. So they're great at converting people, great at customer service, but they suck at the rest of it. And basically what I would say with this type of person is they're just terrible at sales and marketing. So usually the conversion is very high for this person because most of the business that they get is via referral, which explains why they're getting a 5 over here. But the big gaps is that they have no customers at all, which is problematic. And that goes back to what I said at the start. If you don't have leads and you're not signing enough customers, you don't really have a business, okay? You just have a hobby. And the math for this person simply does not allow for $1 million or more per year, okay? Problem 3 is this category here, which is the no follow through. So again, fantastic at generating leads, okay? They're not bad at the offer creation system. They're a 4 out of a 5. But then launching, they're pretty average at because they don't follow through. But then after that, converting leads to customers, they're okay at. And then everything falls down here. Onboarding, non-existent. Customer journey, terrible. And customer service, non-existent. So these businesses are usually what I call the bro scalers, okay? They're not very common in Fearless Moneymakers where I kind of hang out because we don't welcome Lambo chasing boys, but it's a big problem in online business as a whole. These people are everywhere and they really annoy me. So they're very good at sales and marketing, but they're terrible at client skills. And this type of business just eats itself alive. And it creates all this drama on the internet, which is what's led to so many scams and skepticism because of this category. And all the clients end up with a bad taste in their mouth. And that's why they end up on social media complaining and saying, make money online doesn't work and all this sort of stuff. It's because these guys didn't do the right thing. Great at sales and marketing, but terrible at delivering results, which is not cool. So let's recap again. There are 7 systems you need to nail for $1 million or more a year business, okay? Lead generation, offer, launch, conversion, onboarding, customer journey, and customer support. They're crucial. If you're lacking any of these areas, we should talk about working together in Fearless Moneymakers. The goals are additional $20K per month for you, 90% profit margins. By the end, ideally a business that takes about 4 hours of work per day. Okay, that's the aim. That's what allows the family first stuff that I was talking about at the start. And if you have a business, this folds into your existing business so you don't stop making your current cash. So fine for existing business owners. And if you don't have a business, you can save heaps of time and get to your first $20,000 a month way faster. So don't go it alone with trial and error. Doesn't really work. Save time because time is money. Forget about all the stupid self-paced courses. Just get personalized help from someone like me, best in the business, top 1% in terms of these skills. And if you want to join, you can head to the description below in the video and follow the instructions. just send me an email to tim@timdenning.com that says let's build together, and I'll help you figure out if we're a good fit. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the training useful, and I'll see you next time.